Hello. It may be cold and dark outside, but stay with us for the next hour and we'll indulge your fantasies a little. In a special long-haul trip around the world, this week we reveal the hottest places to be seen this winter. Intrepid Alison Goldie cuts a swathe through Australia as she travels coast to coast down the Stuart Highway. Fantasy footballer Frank Skinner leaves West Brom behind to sample the heady delights of the San Siro Stadium in Milan. Musician Rick Wakeman goes to Kerala, the trendiest place to chill out in India. Actress and hopeless romantic Serena Scott Thomas falls in love with Ireland. And our man with a suitcase, Paddy Haycox, is desperately seeking the Orient in Singapore. One of the best tips for this winter is the Indian state of Kerala. Once the spiritual haven of hippies, it now looks set to overtake its rival Goa as the Indian winter sun destination. Rick Wakeman was too busy writing the soundtrack for the 70s to go to India first time around, but he's always wanted to, so we gave him the chance. The state of Kerala is a strip running along the southwest coast of India. Rick flew into the ancient city of Cochin, floated through the backwaters along the Malabar coast to find party time in Trivandrum, and ended up at Kovalam, the paradise beach and old hippie haunt. This is one trip Rick will never forget.
I've spent years conjuring up exotic images of India in my mind, but they don't come anything close to what I've experienced here in Kerala over the past few days. The first thing I noticed in the city of Cochin was people. Contrary to what you might expect, you'll see fewer beggars here than you would in most British cities, and it was certainly a lot more colourful. An afternoon stroll took me to Jewtown, quaintly named after the Jewish community who've been here for 2,000 years. But it's been the centre of the world's spice trade for even longer.
The first impression you get of the city is just how wonderfully colourful it is. The next impression, of course, you get is the smells. Follow the smells, you end up somewhere like this, a spice warehouse, where you're just surrounded by aromas that you just can't believe you could ever find anywhere else in the world.
You can't keep a good cobra down. Keep still. Kathakali is the Hindu equivalent of the pantomime. Mr. Devan, director of the leading troupe, explained what it was all about.
In Kathakali, characters are supernatural. So you find here the dancer, he has exaggerated everything, all the human features. Like the human eyebrow, he makes bigger eyebrow, eyes bigger, face bigger, then ears bigger, and then he puts on the crown. This is the halo of the supernatural.
The coolest way to get from A to B is drifting down what are known as the backwaters, soaking up inspiration on the river version of the Orient Express. These natural canals go on for hundreds of miles, and this has got to be the way to see them. These houseboats were once used for ferrying rice.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
But they've poshed up a lot since then. You could sit here for days watching the world go by, and it does. The backwaters are the focus for local life. Everywhere you look, there's something interesting going on.
Bye-bye.
I could have drifted on forever here, only it was time for lunch and I'd arranged to meet a guest. Our rendezvous happened to be a local school, one of the many stopping off points along the way. What a reception committee. Well, I never realised my fan club extended quite this far. Take that, eat your heart out.
Isn't this really? Yeah.
Bina Joseph is a journalist who's come back to Kerala to visit her parents, and she's promised to introduce me to the finer aspects of the local grub.
Yeah, these all yours, are they? Oh, every single one of them.
Travelling in style involves having your own personal cook, but the pace of life is different here, so it takes a bit longer than your local takeaway. So while he's furiously chopping and stirring, doing the Floyd bit, you lounge about on deck, speculating on the menu. King prawns, I was right.
The food here is usually quite mild.
It's lovely. I recognise some of this, but not all of it.
What do you
Go on, help.
recognise?
Rice?
No, right, okay, well.
I presume these are like sort of...
Just
that baby
Kerala versions of the poppadoms.
Poppadoms, yeah. And here we have...
That's beans, and that's cabbage.
Right.
It's called a thoran, which is essentially vegetables cooked with desiccated coconuts and spices.
oh, wonderful.
And big jumbo prawns, which are a specialty of the area because
Yeah.
there's a lot of seafood and a lot of fish, which
Yeah.
is good.
Could be an example to a few other places.
The only rules you have to remember are, don't get any food on the palm of your hand, and don't get any food above the second phalanx from the top of your hand. Try and just eat with the tips of your
Okay.
fingers. And what we tend to do with poppadoms here is mix it into, just grind it into.
Oh,
rice
I
and
like
dal.
mine crunchy.
Oh, you like yours crunchy? Okay,
I'm
fair
terribly British like this.
Kerala's not known as the land of coconuts for nothing. Palm trees are everywhere you look, and as well as being windswept and exotic, they provide an income for a third of the state's population.
So this stuff is...
This stuff is essentially the coconut husk. They sort of bury the husks in water for about 10 to 12 months. Apparently the salt content in the water makes it change colour. And then they separate the fibres and then they weave the stuff into the rope. And then the rope goes and becomes the mats and the carpets.
So pretty
And
much they use all the coconut.
they can
for
use
everything.
every bit of the coconut tree and the coconut, in fact.
It's the whole village that works together and goes down to
Well, the whole village works together and they go down and they sell to a cooperative society in the next town.
As evening approached, I headed for Trivandrum and the Onam festival. It looks and feels like Christmas, but then there's a lot of celebrating to do. It's not only been a good harvest, but it's also the end of the monsoon.
Hi, can I have a popcorn? Great. Great, thanks very much. Cheers.
Kovalam Beach may only be 16 kilometres from Trivandrum, but it feels light years away. A hippie hangout in the 60s, it's now a friendly mix of Westerners in search of the new Goa and Kerala families on a day out at the seaside. I felt a bit out of place in my own gear, so I decided to invest in a lungi. That's local speak for a sarong.
Oh, 200. Here you go. Special deal. Thank you very much. A deal. A deal.
Journey's end, and I continue to chill out. Massaging with herbal oils is a major part of Ayurveda, the ancient health science of India. Just along the coast from Kovalam, here in Sumattiram, you can learn the rudiments of yoga and meditation, and 65-year-old Mr. Miranda is just the man to show you how it's done.
So that was Kerala then. I've had some wonderful experiences here, most of them very surprising. I mean, I always thought of India as Taj Mahal, the Himalayas, big bustling cities. I just never realised there was so much diversity in just one small part of the country.
So if the karma of Kerala feels right for you, the package prices vary, but in October or November, 2 weeks room only costs from £720 per person. The price rises to £1,000 over Christmas. If you want to do it yourself, flights to Bombay are from £390 return, and the internal hop to Cochin is another £144 return. Accommodation varies from £4 to £15 a night. That could be anything from a room in someone's house to a small hotel. The best way to see the backwaters is on a tourist ferry service, £2 a seat. To do it in style, a houseboat for two costs £500 a week or £100 a day. For landlubbers, hiring a car costs £15 a day and you get a chauffeur thrown in. The Italians are famous for three things. They're fashionable, they're fanatical about football, and I'm told they're great lovers. Frank Skinner is only one of these things, but thanks to a weekend trip to Milan for the big match, he's picked up a few tips on the other two. Set right up in the thigh of Italy, Milan is the home of the designer label, the best football team in Europe, and Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. Frank set his video and donned his West Brom away kit for a heart-thumping trip.
Italy, the only place in the world where it's possible to look cool on a scooter. So, I'm in Milan and this is the mighty San Siro Stadium. This time Sunday afternoon I'll be here watching Milan versus Lazio. The original stadium was built in the 1950s, but after a massive overhaul for the 1990 World Cup, it now holds 83,000 people and looks like something out of Star Trek. Phew, my kind of tourist attraction. Of course, the San Siro isn't the only place of worship in Milan. I like a nice church. This is the Duomo, the third biggest cathedral in the world. And if you can hear a sort of a strange squawking, squelching noise, that's what happens when you try to walk through pigeons and look into camera at the same time. OK, it's got some interesting architecture. When I was walking through the Galleria, Milan's famous old shopping arcade, I came across their own version of the bull ring. The locals believe if you grind your heel into the right bit of old Taurus here, you get to make a wish. Now that is the look of someone with the worst job in the world. Oh, wow. It's a magic security pass. Right, so here we are at Milanello, the AC Milan training camp, yeah? Behind me is arguably the greatest club side in the world, worth millions of pounds, having what they call a training session, what we used to call headers and fancy kicks when I was at school. I'm hiding here because obviously if they see this shirt they'll be quaking in their boots, so I don't want to put them off their stroke. But I want to see if I can get a bit closer. I must remember to tell old Taurus about this. Right, now this is Ruud Gullit on his way here, one of the most famous footballers in the whole world. Probably recognise the shirt instantly, right? Hello? Hello? What is this? A photograph. Oh. Could I have a quick snap? I wanted to get my photo taken with some of the star players. It's easy enough to recognise Ruud, what with his dreadlocks and all, but in some cases, I think I might have slipped up. And Taurus granted me two other wishes. One, to be that stupid bloke who stands at the back when people are being interviewed. And secondly, to get some fashion advice from one of the trendiest players in football.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Will he go with
the
the
only
hair?
thing bad is this, not because of the sponsor, but no, it has no sense, you know, this white, you know.
Oh, right, right. But they sell very nice cars, I understand.
Yeah, that is possible, you know, but it doesn't fit with the colours, you know.
Oh, God, they'll
That's the only bad
they'll
thing.
be very upset to know that you said
Yeah,
that,
I can't help it, but
Anyway, I better keep you in the rain.
but what I like more, you know,
Oh, yeah.
is this.
This?
Yeah,
You like
it's not printed, you know, but it's stitched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
That's okay.
Oh, I like the style, and we've got a little thrush on these.
Yeah, but this is okay.
This is looking good.
This is very nice.
So, with rude sartorial advice still ringing in my ears, I set off for the Via Monte Napoleone, the very heartland of fashionable Milan, to check out the autumn collection of Gianni Versace. Hey, looking good. What a nice place. Ooh, it was like finding yourself in a Grattan's catalogue. Nice. Self-basting, apparently. I wonder if they'd embroider me a thrush on this. What do you think?
I like it.
Right, so I've done a bit of designer shopping. I've been drawn into Milan's consumer society, and I spent 70 quid on this. Right, so let's just see if it works, shall we? Bargain. Now, the Italian games are played on Sunday, but it was Saturday afternoon and I had to have my football fix. That's why I paid a visit to the Osteria del Polone, a football bar in Milan's Canal district. It was a very impressive place, just missing one vital ingredient. I don't know what it is, but I always feel at home on a towpath. This is a very romantic area, popular with artists and art collectors. In fact, the canals themselves were designed by Leonardo, presumably before he started playing for Brazil.
West Bromwich Albion 1, Grimsby Town 1. In Division 2, Bournemouth 1, Chester City.
In the evening, I headed for La Scala, home of Italian opera, obviously an occasion which called for my more formal evening wear. When it's a big opening night, I always like to go for the home kit. A little bit more sober than the green and yellow. Oh, and I decided to take Ruud's advice about the sponsor's logo. Oh, no, this isn't right. I think I've ended up in the moat. It was a goalless first half, but just watching the Italian crowd was an experience in itself. Right, well, it's half time and I've already learnt a few Italian gestures, right? This means good. This means very good. And I don't know what this means, but I think it's something to do with the referee. The second half started off slowly, but it gave me some time for a bit of cultural exchange. And then it was Goal City. For a minute I thought it was going to be another 1-1 draw, just like the Albion, but we came back and we won, thanks to my old football buddy and fashion advisor, Ruud Gullit. Bless him. West Bromwich, please, mate. Ah, West Bromwich. That 1-1 draw with Grimsby Town was a bit disappointing.
Football weekends are available to both Rome and Milan for the duration of the season. A trip including flights, a match ticket and a 3-star hotel is £255 for 2 nights and £215 for 1 night. Transfer is not included. Alternatively, if you want to do it yourself, a return flight from London to Milan costs from £149. 3-star hotels cost about £50 per person per night, and a match ticket will cost anything from £10 to £100, so it will probably work out more expensive. Once in Milan, you can stand at the opera for £5 or sit in the front row for £67. A trip to the top of the Duomo is £2.50 for the best views of the city, and a Versace keyring is a mere £31 for the ultimate designer memento. Every continent has its legendary journey. In the US, it's Route 66. In the Far East, it's the Silk Road. And next year, Australia's Stuart Highway will be joining the list. A new guide to this road will make crossing the Australian outback a more accessible adventure. The highway runs from Darwin in the north to Adelaide in the south. Alison started at Darwin and made her way to the hot water springs of Katherine. From there, she travelled into the outback to Alice Springs and then took the train to the opal mining town of Coober Pedy. She got back on the road to Adelaide on the south coast and then flew to Kangaroo Island to meet the sea lions. This journey is an experience a million miles away from the suburban barbecues and beach life of home and away.
The outback, the big empty. Aborigines took 50,000 years to get to know the place. I've got a few days. But I don't need a map on this epic journey because I'm taking one road. And that road is the Stuart Highway.
The Stuart Highway is nearly 2,000 miles long. It endures wild temperature changes from well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit to below freezing, and cuts through terrain so formidable that some people have to live underground. With all that ahead of me, I'm beginning to feel rather small.
There is the occasional oasis in the dust, like the hot springs at Katherine, inhabited by rainbow lorikeets, a noisy bunch who quite disrupted the tranquility. I came in search of paradise, and for one glorious moment, I found it. It's a vast region, and more Aborigines live here than anywhere else. This is their land now, handed back to them by the Australian government. And Katherine Gorge is their greatest asset.
The Bush Tucker Walk? Yeah?
Darlene Wason is happy to tell you about the way her ancestors used to live.
The Aboriginal tribe that would have lived around the Katherine Gorge area, they would have been called the Jarwin tribe. And they would have lived around here for thousands of years.
And how did they live?
Well, most of the things they had to survive and for their food was pretty basic. For example, this tree just here, the ones with the silver leaves, they're called silverleaf paperbark tree. The Aborigines would strip the bark off those trees, used it to line their huts and their rafts with, also to contain their food and for warm clothing and warm blankets.
My companions on the highway, road trains, which are the territory's lifeline in transporting essential supplies to remote settlements. My next destination, Alice Springs, at the heart of Australia's Red Centre. A town with great expectations for me, but just one word comes to mind when you arrive. Basingstoke. Alice has established itself as the centre of Aboriginal art. It's a talent that they've developed relatively recently and now brings more than £3.5 million into the region. It provides a window on their complex, secretive culture and is an amalgam of body painting and their old Dreamtime stories, once drawn in the sand and now transferred to canvas. You might think it resembles a bad jumper, but I liked it. Dawn, and not a breath of wind. It means the balloons can go up this morning and tourists can get a glimpse of the scrub from above.
Yeah, it's a great one, pop in.
Up here you can just see how big this place is, and it's so still.
Twice a week you can leave Alice and head south on the Ghan train. It takes cars at the back, so I thought I'd give myself a break. It's luxurious and incredibly sociable. Taking their first trip in 40 years, Jim and Dorothy Brown, who sold their cattle the day after they won nearly £1 million on the lottery.
Doris loves trains. When she was a little girl, she always loved to get on the train.
What's your room like then? We've got the honeymoon suite, so that's jolly nice, isn't it? After 40 years, for goodness sake. What's it like? Lovely. Your own share. You've got your own little dining table with lounge chairs and your double bed, I guess, instead of bunk beds and things. So it's lovely. It's a dream come true, for sure.
I was deposited at Coober Pedy, population 3,000 and home to 45 nationalities. What unites them is their lust for opals. It's the kind of place where a miner is buried with his beer keg. The kind of place where workers play with dynamite and big drills and know how to spot that milky iridescent stone in the dirt. Coober Pedy is Australia's last frontier town. Restrictions mean it's one man, one mine. All you need is a $25 licence. John James came in 1978 and is still digging.
This is still the remnants of the guy with his pack and his pick and digging a hole in the ground somewhere and making money. And he's responsible to himself and nobody else but himself. There's very few places left in the world you can do that, and this happens to be one of them.
Air conditioning to cope with extreme heat and cold is beyond the purse of most mining families, so they've had to dig their homes out of the rock, where temperatures are consistent.
This room was dug quite a long time ago, in about 1946, which is fairly early, and this was all dug out by hand.
By hand?
Yeah. So,
what, with a little trowel?
Well, no, I think it might have been a bit bigger than a little trowel, and they would have used some explosives when they did it too. But the whole dugout area up the top here has all been done by hand. I feel really in tune with the environment up here, where it can be very hot outside, it can be very cold outside in the night times, and in here it's always the same. It's always a constant temperature. We get these terrible windy, horrible dusty days. They don't affect you in here. You don't hear it. It's quiet, it's peaceful, it's a great way to live.
A whole society thrives underground. The tiny Serbian community carved out their church in 3 months. There's a lot of hope, but few people get rich.
In reality, I mean, on average you might have 1-2% a year that are of the mining community that will find big money and in excess of $1 million. Unfortunately, the rest of the percentage, or a big bulk of the percentage, would be lucky to make wages. And there's another smaller group in between that make better than wages on average. So it's not an easy business to be in, not really. And it's not a question of finding a lot of money or anything else. There's something else that makes you keep going, and I can't put my finger on that. And I doubt whether any other open miner can either, to be honest, It's not like being in a city where you're going to get X amount of dollars in your pay packet every week, and the only thing you got to look forward to is football on TV or going down the pub for a drink. Here it's a bit like having a ticket in the lottery every day of the week.
After the barren nothingness of Coober Pedy, Adelaide comes as something of a shock. It's genteel, sedate, no traffic jams or dust. The wisteria is out, spring has sprung, and I have one more hop on my journey. To Kangaroo Island. At first sight it could be Cornwall or Somerset. Look a little closer and you realise you're a very long way from home. Tour guide Craig Wickham promised me the best barbie on the island at the Flinders Chase National Park. What he failed to tell me was that half the wildlife was expecting lunch too. In fact, the animals have become so dependent on handouts that visitors have to cage themselves in to avoid having their food stolen. The park are trying to wean the animals away from the expectation of a free lunch.
It does cause big problems for them at the end of the summer. Everything dries out here, everything goes brown, there's not much grass available. And they're accustomed to this nice high protein supplement that people are feeding out, and all the people go back because it's the end of school holidays or so, and the kangaroos don't have anything to eat.
Sorry, Roo, but rules is rules. But there's no such restriction at Nepean Bay. If you go there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you can help feed the pelicans.
Oh, hey, it's not all...
Craig had one more place to show me before our tour was up, the imaginatively named Seal Bay, home to hundreds of sea lions who've been coming here forever and are completely indifferent towards the attention they get.
The reason why this is one of the few beaches where they remain is because there was extensive hunting in the early 1800s, and it's possibly up to 70,000 skins taken out from around Kangaroo Island. So these guys are very lucky. Now, whether it was the really dense bush on one side and the big reefs out here which are causing all the waves behind us that kept the ships away, I don't know, but for some reason they're here, and the fact that once an animal was born in an area, it comes back there to breed is no surprise, because many animals do that.
At the end of it all, I have to confess I felt quite shell-shocked. With all the differences in terrain, this is no easy journey. It needs time, but there is a great satisfaction in arriving on Kangaroo Island and in knowing that there's nothing between you and Antarctica.
The guide to travelling the Stuart Highway will be launched by the local tourist boards next year. But if you can't wait till then, the price of getting to Australia varies with the season. Flights in October start at £660 return, but in the spring they drop to about £560, and packages to Sydney can be as low as £500. To make the journey, hiring a car starts at £250 a week. Travelling first class on the Ghan Railway from Alice Springs to Coober Pedy costs £98, and the hot air balloon trip over the outback is £48 per person, inclusive of a champagne breakfast. The flight from Adelaide to Kangaroo Island costs £60 a person. It's a short 20-minute hop, and you can stay in a bed and breakfast for about £30 if you don't mind being woken up by the wallabies. The Stuart Highway looks set to become one of the new holiday classics. And to keep you one step ahead of the rest, we've enlisted the help of some top travel gurus to predict other new hotspots for next year.
My top tip for 1995 is the Polish city of Krakow, mainly because we've barely scratched the surface of Eastern Europe. It's the most beautiful medieval city which emerged completely unscathed from World War II. It has lovely cobbled streets, beautiful buildings, cafes, restaurants, and the most vivid nightlife, and it's still amazingly cheap.
If you like the Far East, you should know that Vietnam is really opening up for tourism. Probably like me, you'll travel there with lots of prejudices. I'd really only had black and white news footage for reference, so I was bowled over by the lush tropical countryside. The cities are fascinating, and there are some lovely beaches.
I'd go for the Cook Islands in the South Pacific. It's rather like Tahiti as it was 20 years ago, beautiful and unspoilt. And there's something there for everyone, from lying on the fabulously clean beaches to skydiving and scuba diving. And it's perfect for the traveller because the Polynesian culture is so friendly.
For the adventurous traveller, the Silk Road in Central Asia is surely one of the last great unexplored areas in the developed world. Not only does it have an incredible history, like Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, the breakup of the Soviet system, but it has all those romantic associations with the Silk Road and its trade. And it's an area of great beauty, mountains, mosques, deserts. Just a fascinating place to go.
One part of the world that used to be big, and I think is definitely going to become big again, is Lebanon. The country's at peace, the airlines are back there on a regular basis, and in sightseeing terms there's really a lot to do with Crusader castles and Phoenician ruins all over the place. On the food and drink side, the red wine, some of it is brilliant, and if you like Greek mezze, you'll love Lebanese dinners.
I'd say Zanzibar off the east coast of Africa is going to be one of the places to go in the next year or so. It used to be called the Spice Island, and it still feels like something out of Sinbad the Sailor. You've got a wonderful mix of Arabic and African cultures, beautiful Moorish architecture, and the whole place just feels like something out of a fairy tale.
We continue our 60-minute tour around the globe's winter hotspots in the Far East. Singapore is the kind of place where the phones always work and you wipe your shoes before stepping out onto the street. Thanks to that, it has become one of the most popular stopovers for long-haul flights to Australasia and the Far East. Singapore is just off the southern tip of Malaysia. Paddy flew into the city of Singapore. He took a trip to the island of Pulau Ubin and then went to Sentosa, a theme park celebrating the island's heritage. As Paddy found out, the frightening efficiency means that you have to look a little harder to find the Orient you might have expected.
The gateway to the Far East. An island city of 3 million people, no bigger than the Isle of Wight. The streets are straight out of Manhattan. The shopping opportunities, legendary. The hotels, space age, air-conditioned, and vast. It's a far cry from the colonial outpost you'd have found here just a generation ago.
High-rise, high-tech, high-flying. That's how Singapore is determined to be seen today. Some would say the result is more Far West than Far East. And I'm wondering if there's anything left here of the old Orient at all.
They do still play cricket on the Padang, one of the few green spaces that remains in the city centre. But the Raffles Hotel, that other famous reminder of Singapore's past, is dwarfed by skyscrapers. The pace of development has also threatened to engulf Singapore's old Chinatown. In this tiny enclave hemmed in by the new business district, Sin Kee is the last bookbinder plying his trade on the street. He would have been forced out in the 1980s if Singapore hadn't had a change of heart.
The government then woke up and decided, hey, wait, stop all this tearing down of the old. Maybe there's $1 that can be made of it. And that district in Chinatown, fortunately for us, hadn't been torn down yet.
Journalist Mary Lee explained that a renovation programme is underway.
Things like that.
But in a city obsessed with progress, the old way of life is unlikely to be saved.
The old style was part of one's past, and it no longer is, so one's past is gone.
But it's being recreated here on the streets.
Yes, but only cosmetically, because the trades, the people, are all different. I mean, it's all yuppie businesses now.
In the new Chinatown, ageing bookbinders are out. Slick shops and offices and smart restaurants are in. Far from living in its shadow, the place seems set to become a trendy extension of Singapore's towering financial centre. My quest to find something more of the authentic Orient continued. Changi Port, 10 miles east of the city. From here, it's a short trip by bumboat to Pulau Ubin, one of the islands off Singapore's coast. As Singapore develops, Pulau Ubin has been left behind. Here, you'll still find a kampong, the Malay word for village.
This is probably the last traditional Malay village that is inhabited. All the others have gone. There are lots of different species of birds. And
Raj Rajaturai, a Singaporean Tamil, is a nature guide on the island. He fears it won't be long before the prospect of development looms here too.
in the Malay village, we're down to probably the last 60-odd people left. On the island, it's about 600 plus. The population declines every year.
Does that sadden you?
Yes, it does, because you really need a little part of Singapore to remain as it is, as a reminder at least to the younger generation of where we've come from.
The reality is most of the old Singapore has gone forever, and what's left is vanishing fast. In its place is a safe, sanitised version of the Far East. But this new Singapore is attracting 6 million visitors a year.
The big draw today, theme parks. They're pulling in families in ever-growing numbers, and 7 out of 10 visitors now come from the Far East itself. Ironically, they've built a replica Asian village here, a pristine recreation of the Orient that's disappearing. But whatever you think of the new Singapore, one reason for refuelling here is as good as it ever was. This is one of the island's hawker centres. The people who serve the food used to cook on street corners until the government banned the practice and made them all operate under one roof.
Well, we prefer here, it's much better.
Do you?
Better, because here permanent places. Everything, cleanliness, hygienic, everything we have here.
The result is an exciting, exotic fast food supermarket where you bag yourself a table and order from any stall you like.
Very big. How much is that going to cost me if I want to eat that?
At last, in this modern, very Western city, I'd managed to find a slice of the old Orient at its best.
Say the words French Connection and you think of Marseille. Don't look now and you think of Venice. For some, seeing it on the silver screen isn't enough. They have to see the location itself. In the last year, New Zealand has been inundated with people in search of the beach from the piano. We've been location scouting to find 5 of the best from the bunch of recent releases. Sirens was filmed in Australia's Blue Mountains, only 1 hour's drive from Sydney.
Hello! Come in, boys.
The film was set in the home of eccentric Australian painter Norman Lindsay and tells the story of his encounters with an English clergyman and his wife.
You're late.
Yeah, we had to fix up a couple of fly-blind sheep.
Did you wash your hands?
Yeah, twice.
If you fancy taking in some Australian culture, a visit to Norman Lindsay's gallery and house costs £2.40 and it's open on Fridays and Saturdays. 4 Weddings and a Funeral was filmed in various private homes up and down the country, but the first romantic encounter between Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell was filmed in a 16th century hotel in Amersham.
Is it? Yes. Well, I think you're right. I think we are probably more reserved, you know. And You May Now Kiss the Bride isn't actually in the Book of Common Prayer.
I always worry I'll go too far, you know, in the heat of the moment.
If you're based in London and fancy a romantic weekend away from the smoke, Amersham is only a tube ride away. The Crown Hotel offers a weekend break in a suite complete with 4-poster bed for £52.50 per person per night. If you want to lay your head on the same pillow as Hugh Grant, ask for the Queen Elizabeth I suite, but you'll have to book at least a month in advance as it's the most sought-after room. Blenheim Palace in Oxfordshire makes a guest appearance in the film Orlando, Virginia Woolf's story of an Elizabethan aristocrat.
Ambassador? I see. Once the balance of power has been established here in Europe, we must certainly turn our attention to the East.
Blenheim Palace and Magnificent Gardens are open to the public. The entrance fee is £6.90, which includes a guided tour. But if you want to visit the palace this year, you'll have to hurry as it closes for the winter at the end of October. Heaven and Earth, the third part of a trilogy by Oliver Stone, is a true story of a Vietnamese woman's fight against the odds. Although the film was set in Vietnam, it was filmed in Thailand in the shadow of the limestone mountains.
So the new generation in eating the rice was sharing in the spirit of their ancestors.
You can stay in the nearby town of Phang Nga, a good base for exploring the mountains. A decent hotel costs £25 per night. For a truly filmic experience, visit Koh Ping Can, where the James Bond film The Man with the Golden Gun was shot. Set on and around Lake Geneva in France, Le Parfum d'Yvonne tells the story of a draft dodger, Victor Schmara's fond memories of the summer of 1958. Lake Geneva is surrounded by spa towns, including the town of Evian, where the famous Royal Hotel has rooms that overlook the lake for £152 per person per night. To use the spa and aqua gym will set you back a further £67 a day. The dramatic beauty of the landscape and the proximity of Dublin has long made Southern Ireland a fashionable haunt for film stars, both on and off the set. So we invited actress Serena Scott Thomas to go there for the weekend in search of the ultimate romantic winter retreat. Her quest began in County Cork, in Goleen, in a windswept cottage overlooking Roaring Water Bay. She headed east to Connor to stay in a cosy B&B and take in the gardens at Ballyvolane. Finally, she went riding on the beach below Gorey and had a night of pure indulgence at a country house near the town. A spluttering classic bike was the nearest she got to a romantic companion.
The beautiful southwestern coast of Ireland. It's a dangerous stretch of coast, and many ships have succumbed to the violence of the Atlantic and been wrecked here. Those who make it ashore succumb instead to the beauty of the rocky coast. It's a romantic and wild land.
This is Knocknaga Land, locally known as the Lost Village. There used to be a small community here, but now the rugged landscape and the sea are your only companions.
To anyone who listens to the radio, Fastnet feels like an old friend. And when the wind whips up, you can see why it makes such an appearance in the shipping forecast. This ancient cottage has been restored. A perfect romantic hideaway, perched on the southernmost tip of Ireland, where Jeff Bates ensures there's a roaring fire to greet you.
So would you say this is a typical Irish cottage?
Not exactly. I mean, obviously it was once. No, it's just been renovated as simply as possible and kept the nice stonework and tried to keep the theme of the old cottage with the beams and the what would have been perhaps flag floors, but now they're obviously tiled floors.
Travelling eastwards, you leave Ireland's rugged mountains behind. If castles give you romantic illusions of grandeur, in County Waterford for £1,000 you can rule your own kingdom for a week at Lismore Castle. But even that can't guarantee you privacy. The castle is reputed to be haunted. Kinsale is just up the road. In a country of muted moss colours, this feels like a piece of the Mediterranean. And with restaurants boasting Michelin stars, it's worth booking your dîner à deux. A few miles north, near Fermoy, is Ballyvolane Country House. If houses here haven't got ghosts, they've got legends, and the owners are usually only too keen to share them with you. Apparently 400 years ago, the owners of this house were murdered for the booty hidden under their beds. The only hidden things today are in the walled kitchen garden, where vegetables are picked daily for the dinner table. But for something a little more cosy than a house party, Connor House reminds me of a childhood visit to my grandmother's.
This is a very magical house. You can feel it the moment you walk into it. It's a very special place. Do you notice a change in people when they come and stay here?
Yes, most of my guests come from Central Europe and big cities, and they all come and they arrive very stressed out. And after a lovely meal and wine and the lot, they arrive down in the morning and they all look wonderfully relaxed. And they tell me they have had wonderful dreams.
So no one has bad dreams?
Nobody has bad dreams. It's all wonderful.
This is the most perfect backdrop for a romantic scene. The film industry agrees. Commonly known as Paddywood, this area on the east coast is now inundated with Hollywood stars trying to escape the rat race. But to local rider Margaret Bowe, their glamour will never outdo the beauty of the miles of unspoilt beach.
Is this a sort of normal Irish beach, or is this exceptional? Well, it's exceptionally long. It's a 7-mile long beach, and there aren't not many others in County Wexford that are this long anyway. I mean, I've only seen beaches like this in Australia. Well, you're in Ireland now.
Half an hour up the coast is the hotel officially recognised as one of the top 25 hideaways in the world, Milefield House in Gorey.
It's just 2 hours' drive from Dublin, and is the perfect place to end my search for an Irish romantic secret.
Oh, lovely, thank you. Morning.
As if the house and setting weren't enough.
Thank you very much.
Everybody's romantic fantasy. Breakfast in bed.
Not bad. Yum.
Next time I'll make sure there's someone with me to share it.
Flights from England to Dublin start at £59 return at the moment. For a windswept holiday, you can hire the cottage near Fastnet for £250 a week. It sleeps 6 and is from the Elegant Ireland group. For a more luxurious weekend, Lismore Castle is available to rent for £4,200 a week for 4, a princely sum. Alternatively, bed and breakfast in a country house like Ballyvolane is about £40 a head. For an extra £20, you can stay for a full dinner. Serena ended her trip at Marfield. For £60, you get a room and the hotel speciality, breakfast in bed. For horse riders, prices start at £8 an hour for an organised hack. There are lots of riding centres in the area. This week, Mrs. Pat Shaw from Warrington has won a week for 2 in Rome. And we're giving away another holiday tonight. Guess the place linking our 4 clues and you could win a trip there. The number to call is 0891 114466 if you spot the link between number 1, a bear, number 2, the film The Innocent starring Anthony Hopkins, number 3 is a dish of sausage and cabbage, and number 4, the River Spree. Lines are open until midnight on Monday. The recorded message will tell you where to ring next week for the answer and winner. If you want to know more about the places featured in tonight's programme, send a large self-addressed envelope with a first-class stamp to the Travel Show Essential Guide, P.O. Box 191, Stockport, SK2 6PN. Write the destination that you're interested in on the outside of the envelope and we'll send you a free guide in the post. Alternatively, see page 613 on CFAX. That's it for this series of The Travel Show. We'll be back next year, but you don't have to wait that long as we'll be heading to California for Christmas. So join us for some December sunshine in the US. Till then, good night.
They were sisters locked in a